Hello, hello again. It's Marquette Redham.
And Paul Redham.
And we're here today with episode 12 of Calls with Paul.
Is it 12? I think we're waiting on confirmation.
How quickly we've become a teenager.
Well, almost. I think that's next week.
Next week. Okay. Well, anyway.
Next week I'll come with pimples and rage.
Hormones.
Who knows what else.
And we digress. All right. Well, welcome to episode 12 of Calls with Paul. This week we're talking about the risk of overpricing your home for sale in Austin. I mean, I think a home is usually going to be someone's most valuable asset. It's often where most of your money is tied up. It's your greatest opportunity to build wealth. And so I think a lot of times when it comes time to sell their home, people really, really want to get the most that they possibly can for that.
They do.
And to reach that goal, a lot of times I think people are tempted to sort of ask for an inflated price or a price that's above market value. Because after all, if you don't ask for it, you're definitely not going to get it, right?
Well, it's a little counterintuitive, but yeah, people are very much tempted to ask for as much money as they can. But you need to remember it's an advertising number, in some respects, and you got to be real careful. So there are cases where it's really it can be smart to ask for higher. In fact, we recommend that once in a blue.
Well, we're gonna get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'll shut it
Jumping
down.
ahead.
I'll wait.
Yeah. So I guess as we look at tips for not overpricing your home, I think one of the first things is helping someone figure out how to find the right price for their home. Yeah. Is that right? So, the seller gets to make that call, right? You as a realtor make recommendations, but the seller makes the final decision.
Absolutely. If a seller is just completely off their rocker, I reserve the right to not spend marketing money on it.
Sure.
But yeah, for the most part, we give advice and then we take orders and we run the ball down the field, and our sellers tend to be really well educated on the pros and cons of all of their choices, and they're not ours to really make.
And pricing is an art and a science. You talked all the choices. I think rather than sometimes just spitballing it and pulling a number out of the air, I mean, I think the tendency is, oh, well, my neighbor just sold their house and I want to sell my house. I should be able to get what they're getting. Yeah. Or there's a house, 2 streets over and I should be able to get for that. But rather than just kind of randomly pulling a number out of the air, I think there's real value in seeking out the professional advice of a realtor who has experience in all aspects of the real estate cycle. So as someone is kind of going through the process of pricing, what are some of the things that pricing needs to take into account?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into it. There's time of year, there's where the market's at.
So seasonality of the market?
Yeah, there's what's going on with interest rates. There's, I like to stick my finger up in the air and kind of feel it. I mean, not really, but when you live inside the market, you can kind of tell where things are heading.
It comes from experience.
Yeah, it comes from experience where things are going. Depending on the time of year, we tend to encourage different pricing strategies, at least over the last 6 years or so, and that's subject to change. In fact, we changed it all up this January.
Well, and we'll get to some of those pricing strategies. Yeah. But other things they need to take into account is also not just the seasonality, but also sort of the historic cycle of the market too, right?
That's right.
Because a real estate cycle has a year cycle, but you have a longer term pattern that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And then you're always telling me it's all about condition and location and the unique features of the home.
That's right.
Right. And then comparable sales. So you'll do what's called a CMA.
Yeah. So
starts for a stands for
comparative market analysis. It's really a lot to fit in.
That's why you say CMA.
So we shorten that down for guys like me that like to talk real fast.
And what goes into a CMA?
Mostly we like to look at sold homes in a CMA, so we can look in the rearview mirror and see where your home ought to sell. And then it gets a little trickier when we start layering on top of that the active homes to see if there's any competition, what that competition looks like. And of course, if you want to be the next home to sell, you got to be the next best deal out there. And figuring that part out is where the real in between the solds and the actives that are available, where you want to be.
So in terms of trying to find the right price, you've got to take into account other people that are selling around you or have recently sold. You got to take into the unique features of that individual house, seasonality of the market, interest rates, and overall historic real estate cycle.
Yep.
What about price per foot?
Well, that's a bit of a sticky widget for me. We all get kind of, the industry standard is to price homes on price per foot, but there's really, it's really far more complicated to me than that. You kind of have the lot, the piece of land that the home sits on, which is worth one thing, and then you have the structure on it that's worth another. And nobody really breaks that apart and does it. But mentally, at least in Central Austin, I tend to do a lot of thinking about that. Different locations are worth different amounts of money, and when you have such a diverse stock of housing, all in different states of repair, it's really hard to use price per foot.
Right. I mean, let's take a neighborhood like Crestview that's undergoing a lot of remodeling and new construction. You can't take into account that brand new construction 2-story little duplex thing as compare it to the 1950s mid-century original bungalow.
You really can't. Although some like 1950 bungalows may end up fetching a higher price per foot than something else if they've been completely remodeled or whatever.
Well, and also I think you mentioned to me also that people are not necessarily looking at one neighborhood anymore. So they're comparing several different neighborhoods and trying to find the best choice to live in. So you've got to think about, well, what is your bigger competition in Austin, and how are you going to draw people to your house into this neighborhood? Is that true?
That's exactly right. So people who are looking, say, at a home on Balcones are also looking at homes in Crestview and Brentwood and even over in Hyde Park. So your competitive market isn't just right there in Crestview if that's where you're selling your home. Or Balcones, it's all those neighborhoods and all those types of homes within the vicinity.
So the moral of the story is while price per foot is relevant, you can't rely too heavily on it when you're arriving at that set price.
Right. It's a good fun figure to play with and to kind of get started, but it's not where the final decision should be.
And as a realtor, you come to your clients with a recommendation, don't you? So like you kind of come in with a range of where you think a house should be priced, and then when they pick a pricing strategy that we're going to talk about next, that sort of dictates whether they're going in at the top or the bottom of that range. Or
we should, before we see a house, it's really hard to price it.
Sure.
So we'll show up with like a price range in mind, and then we'll talk pricing strategy at a listing appointment. And then the big thing to do is to take a look at the competition and see what else is out there to make sure that we're really primed to be the next best deal.
Well, let's talk about those pricing strategies. Yeah. I know that there are 3 basic pricing strategies, and each one kind of comes with its own pros and cons. Yep. You've got go for it pricing.
Yep, that sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. You've got market pricing. And you have feeding frenzy pricing.
That's right.
Will you walk us through the go for it pricing?
So go for it pricing is really what sellers want to do right away. And this is a useful tool, but only in certain circumstances where you don't have any competition. So I remember specifically a few homes. One of them is just running through my head right now over on Winona, where everybody wanted to sell it for $350. The seller got a hold of me. I said, hey, let's go at $4. And we sold it for all of it. There just wasn't anything else. This was years ago, by the way. Prices have changed. But there just wasn't anything else to compete with it. And it had the nice warm wood floors and the windows, and we prepped it real nice. And all that really worked out well. So that was a good instance of go for it pricing. There was also that one on West Francis. But anyway, I could probably keep going on all that. But go for it pricing should be used really only when you don't have competition for homes that are like yours, and you're ready to adjust quickly.
Or you don't even really have to sell.
Yeah, or you don't have to sell, but then you're really wasting everybody's time.
Well, you're going fishing.
Yeah.
Fishing in the market. If I can be the cons here, you kind of talked about the benefits. I think your first opportunity to sell the house, you're going to get more eyeballs on your home when it first hits the market. And that a lot of buyers won't even bother looking at a house that's priced sky high. We do a lot of online marketing, and I get a lot of feedback from people about pricing and affordability and how we're personally responsible for ruining Austin because you and I are pricing homes so high. And
don't think we're really ruining Austin anymore.
Well, I hear you, but that's what the Facebook land likes to tell me. So, it's risky. So this go for it price, yeah, you might go for it and you might get more than what the market currently would say, but it's risky. So you're risking turning off buyers. You're risking getting shock warned, right? Like the longer it sits on the market, in most cases, the longer it sits on the market, the less money the seller is going to make. You're going to end up making price adjustments.
That's
now,
right.
there are always outliers, but generally speaking, and the longer it's for sale, the home, frankly, just loses its appeal. And also, if you then end up making a price adjustment, sometimes people aren't going to look at it. They're going to go, yeah, I've seen that. They're not even going to notice that you made that price adjustment. It almost becomes like you're sort of blind to it. So the go for it price is not without risk.
No. It's heavy on risk, but it has its right place and its right time. And it should really be used seldomly, but yeah.
Tell us a little bit about option 2, market pricing.
Option 2 is pretty fair. It's kind of
it's market price. That is fair.
It's yeah. We come up with the comps. We figure it out. We see the number and we price it there. The problem with that is that it really doesn't stand out. It doesn't cause buyers to have fear of loss and to take action right away. What we really want to have in the market, whether you're using the go for it pricing or whatever pricing that we're using, what we want to do is cause buyers to have concern that they're going to miss out. FOMO.
That's the trendy thing to say, FOMO.
Or fear of missing out. I said it.
Yeah, no, but you didn't say FOMO.
I didn't. I've been calling it fear of loss, a fool.
For a long time, yeah.
Fear of loss, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
So you gotta have that as part of your equation and your price.
You're kind of coming in right at what the market would pay.
Everybody wants to feel like they're getting a deal.
Yeah. And the thing about that also is if someone wanted a starting point, like if you're just curious what you could get for your home, you can go to our website at homesville.com. There's a place where you can check the value of your property and get sort of a preliminary idea. Keep in mind that's a preliminary idea, and Paul would really need to see it and look at it and give you a better assessment.
Well, you guys need to understand when you do that on our website, we don't have the automated system. It comes straight to me, so give me a little bit of time to fill it out.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, that is me, and it really helps, guys, if you actually put your email address in and go to that second page, so I can
send it to you.
I can send it to you.
You create a lot of CMAs that
easily,
go to nowhere.
I promise I won't. I'm not evil, and I won't call you 120 times and tell you really need to sell your house. But I will get you a genuine idea of what I think it's worth.
Cool. All right. Option number 3: feeding frenzy.
Yeah, that's really been the popular one. Just because when you look at, like, you got to figure you're never going to nail price like right on the head. You're either probably going to go a little high or a little bit low. The risk of going high is generally more than the risk of going low. So most people actually, when they think about it and they understand all this stuff, they go a little bit low, and we sell their homes right away. It's less hassle. They ultimately make more money. If you do price it low because the markets work the way that they work, a lot of times we get multiple offers, and that the market value.
Well, the equation is pretty simple. The lower starting price generally is going to create more excitement because, like you said, everybody wants a deal. Oh my gosh, this is a deal. I want in on it. And everybody, get it. Yeah. They get excited. Yeah. They see each other. There's more showings. There's more competition. That competition creates this fear of missing out, or FOMO. It creates that fear of loss. And really, so that lower price, in a lot of ways, tends to get people more excited about the possibilities, and so you're going to generate more interest, and because of that competition, and I've had this happen in real live, like, auction situations.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
well, I'm never doing that
again. and then you get that fear of loss, so a lot of times people are willing to pay above the asking price.
Yeah.
So even though you priced it slightly below market, that competition ends up in many cases driving the price above the list price, and sometimes even higher than what the go for it price would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers we're seeing out there, I did some homework, I guess it was last week or so, on what's going on in the loop. But we saw over market numbers, one as high as 14% over. So,
those are good numbers.
Which is a lot, but like a lot of those are also 2% over and 3% over and 5% over. The big question you have to ask yourself when you're pricing under market is, do I believe that markets work? Do I believe that my property will sell for what it's worth if enough people get a look at it and everybody's excited?
And the cool thing is, just anecdotally, in our spring, I mean, it's been a good spring market so far. August, but right now, at least, everything that we're putting on the market, we are having sellers, I should say, that are making savvy decisions. We definitely recommend the feeding frenzy option. They're pricing it just below market, and we're getting multiple offers, usually that very first weekend, so you don't have to worry about it sitting on the market and getting tired and shop worn. And we're seeing really, I mean, you closed one on Friday where it was $40,000 over list.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right, $40,000 over list by creating that feeding frenzy opportunity. And it wasn't that you intentionally just don't know how to price things.
No,
that was an intentional.
The comps were there. We were right there in comp land. We did some really dressing the house up and made it beautiful. Sarah, your eyes are getting big.
New wood floors, new paint. Had it staged.
I mean, these guys really did everything right, and they put some real value in there for the buyers.
Yeah.
And the buyers rewarded them.
One of the things, though, to keep in mind about that, when you create that feeding frenzy, you're likely going to end up in a multiple offer or bidding war, and you want to have a realtor who has a predetermined way that they're going to handle that multiple offer situation. So you want to make sure that there's not. You're not sort of figuring it on the fly. So as you're choosing a realtor to help you with selling your home, and if you're going to go the route of the feeding frenzy, make sure that you've got someone like him who can walk you through it. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a hot seat, and if you haven't been there and you don't know how to handle it, there's a natural inclination for folks that haven't been there before to feel like they're in trouble, because like no matter what you do, people are gonna, everybody's gonna be mad at you except for one person that doesn't get it. But there are ways to handle it where everybody ends up happy and treat it as a fair process.
So those
folks.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. You're lovely.
Those are the 3 choices for pricing strategies. How does someone choose the right strategy? Give us an idea of what the pricing differences are that people would see.
Well, let's say
I think like 10 to 20% between the go for it price and the feeding frenzy price. That's what you've told me before.
Yeah, I think it depends a whole lot on like the house and the location, but it's usually somewhere in between where when I'm vacillating on price, there'll be a range in there, and I may say, hey guys, your go for it price is here. Y'all can go for it there, but I need you to be ready to adjust if needed, like in fast. Your fair market price is probably around here, and the really good price for getting this gone, and hopefully creating multiple offers. Like we never know. We just never know that that's going to really happen. But the good, really interesting price where I think people are going to get excited is here, and that may vary. I mean, it's really not percentage. It's more like neighborhood, and it's more. I mean, that could be a $20,000 range or a $10,000 range.
And again, you recommend the feeding frenzy strategy to get a quick sale and the most profit.
In most cases.
Most cases.
We have one coming up now that
we're doing the go for it price on that one. Right?
No comment.
Oh. Well, we don't know what listing it is. Who knows? We have tons of listings coming, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something you mentioned, which is being prepared to adjust.
Yeah.
So regardless of what pricing strategy you choose, it's really important that you're prepared to adjust. Like if you don't get an offer right away, I've said that, most of your showings are going to happen in that first 4 days. So our best advice is going to be prepared to adjust your price quickly. But as you explained to me, a lot of times buyers kind of have the tendency to just kind of wait. Well, I really want that number. I really want that number. I'm just gonna wait it out. But the longer they wait, the more sort of time worn and shop worn their home becomes, and that fear of missing out fades away. So how does someone gauge if their house is priced right or not, and when it's time to make an adjustment?
The biggest, well, first off, we coach on 2 weeks. Like, so we put it out there. You figure you're going to get most of your traffic in 4 days. So you'll see all kinds of showings come through. And then it'll taper down almost immediately. And then there will be some stragglers that come through. We really like to see people move at the 2-week mark because we feel like we've given it a really fair shot at that number. And then it's time to move into a new band. But the way we tell is really just by showings. Of course, we seek feedback, but a lot of that could be biased, and agents don't always, a lot of times they just want me to get an answer and
they don't
tell me what I want to hear and go on about their merry way, which is fair because I do the same thing. But what we look at is if you have a bunch of showings and no offers, you're probably a little high. If you have no showings, well, then you're really way too high because nobody wants to come spend their time wasting it. And if you've sold your house, you were either right at market or you might have been a little bit under. And hopefully, if that's the case, the market did what markets do and it bid the price up.
Either way, if you didn't have an offer after that 2-week period, it's probably time to look at making a price adjustment.
It's definitely time, and it may be. Sometimes when people are in a real hurry, we'll let them go at a week when they adjust their price. But I'd like to let it sit for a couple of weeks.
What do you recommend in terms of price reductions? Teeny tiny little increments, big price band leaps. What do you recommend?
Oh no, if you're going to adjust, we really want you to go to the next band. So
what's a pricing band?
Well, so buyers tend to search in round numbers, right? Like, so you'll search up to, hey, I'm looking for a home. I want to keep it under $500,000. I'm up to 5.25. I'm up to 550. I'm up to 600. I'm up to $1 million. So people search in bands, and those bands may change a little bit as you get up into higher numbers.
Usually kind of in $25,000 or $50,000 increments, right?
Yeah, when you get up into the mills, it's in 100,000 increments. I think that's my buyers tend to come to us with predetermined numbers that they're willing to go up to.
Sure.
So all their searches on Zillow and all their personal searches and the searches that we as realtors set up also tend to have those round numbers. So we want you to go to the next round number down, whether that's let's say you're at 600, I want you to go to 575. If you're at $1.1 million, I probably want you to go to 999 if you can stomach it, and so on and so forth. That way you get a brand new audience.
For sure, and new eyeballs, people that might not have been looking in that price point before. All of a sudden, your home is showing up in a price point in front of people that might not have seen it.
That's exactly
the
right.
first time around.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, those are our pricing, some pricing tips and the risk of overpricing your home. Do you have any last takeaway for people about the risk of overpricing your home?
I think it's considerable. One of the, we didn't cover this here because I forgot to talk to you about it, but so there's really two strategies, and you got to figure it out kind of at the outset before you start adjusting price. I either want you to put your home on the market and stand tall with your price, or I want you to go this route of lowering your price as time goes by, and trying to get it sold using fear of loss. I don't ever want people doing both. So if you price your home too high and let it sit out there on market for any length of time, and then you start adjusting it, now you're beating yourself up in two ways, and we don't ever want to see that. I'd rather you use the fear of loss route because it's smarter. But for people who can't do that, we love you too. And the thing to do there is to put it out there and really stand tall, and then you have plenty of negotiation room for when you're sitting on the market for 200 days or whatever.
Ouch! I don't want to be on the market for 200 days.
We don't like that route, but I need you to think about that.
And most of your listings don't stay on the market for 200
days. They move quickly, and we educate people pretty well, I think. And people are reasonable, and everybody's on the same page, and we all have the same goals. And when that works, everything works great.
Well, there you have it. That is the risk of overpricing your Austin home. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comments below or send Paul a direct message or a text or an email. You can also call him. He will talk to you on the phone.
I like to talk.
He does like to talk. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Wednesday at noon for Calls with Paul.
That'll be episode 13.
And then we'll really be a teenager.
We'll really be a teenager. Are we going to come dressed up funny?
I hadn't considered that. Over and out, you guys.